Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Inside MS Acquisition Corp. And this is a series specifically about how we lead and how we are taking a different approach to our SPAC. So many SPACs during their IPO process, after they've listed, tend to go quiet until such time as they have a business combination. Our approach is completely different. We're going to innovate. We're going to share what we do in public. We believe transparency is a new currency. So we're going to show you not just the milestones, but the leadership, the mindset, the team. Today, I'm very honored to share with you the people who shaped this journey. Each and every one has been hand selected. I'm a big believer that governance is critical to bring both the structure, the perspective, the discipline. One of our members is calling in. Hang on. Hey, Seth, we're on live. Sure. We'll get it. Great. Shirley, can you please send Seth the link done in real time? So this is what it looks in real time, guys. We are clearly coming together under the technology. Sometimes it works beautifully, sometimes it doesn't. So we'll get our last board member to join here. And really the goal today is to share with you all who we are. So we're going to share our backgrounds. I want to, share some of the lessons and each board member to give some perspective because really the thought here is very simple. Human capital is critical to not just any company, but specifically to a SPAC. There's two sets of currency. There's the money we have in Treasury. We currently have $115 million sitting in Treasury after our IPO. But way before that were the people and the individuals. And it's that which we believe is the most critical currency as a differentiator in what a SPAC is. And so obviously we're here to not just educate you, but to have you understand what happened behind the structure. And then, of course, as we go forward, we'll continue to share that with you in a very unique format. So what I'm going to do now is maybe, Dave, I'm going to start with you since you were the first one to come on. Our belief here is obviously that every board member adds value. And in that process, you'll see and get a sense of the nature of each individual, the backgrounds, the diversity, and why we believe we're going to open up the curtain and show you in real time what makes our board unique and what makes MS Acquisition Corp unique. So with great pleasure, I want to introduce you to Dave Lowenstein, both CFO and board member. I bear the role of both CEO and board member, so all five of us here will make up the board. The idea, of course, is to give you some more depth, and it began with the belief in what we're building. So, Dave, do you want to just share a little bit about your background and the relevance that plays into what we're doing here with Emmis?
Thanks, Peter. Excited to be here on LinkedIn Live, building openly and transparently, as you've outlined, as well as obviously excited about the opportunity sets, in front of MS Acquisition Corp. My background and what I bring to the table here is primarily on the issuer side. I've been focused on capital markets formation, finance, and M&A throughout my career. I was the CFO of a NASDAQ company. I took my own company public, Source Corp, in the mid-90s. The old Montgomery Securities and Robbie Stevens took us public. We completed 80 acquisitions while being a public company, and most importantly, delivered 25% EPS growth quarter over quarter for 5 straight years. Won numerous corporate accolades from being on the Fortune top 100 small cap growth companies in America 2 years in a row, to Fortune magazine having us on the top 100 public growth companies as well. We ended up selling the company to Apollo Partners for a little north of $500 million. And since then, I've been actively involved in the small cap public company arena, primarily NASDAQ as a board member in various capacities, including audit chair and chair. And I'm from an from a business segment perspective, primarily been focused on industrials and business services and fundamental operating companies, which is a core tenet of Ennis as well. So very excited to be here and looking forward to this discussion.
Yeah, Dave, thanks. So I'm just going to highlight a few things and then we'll go round robin. But I think clearly the M&A aspects, the operating experience, the finance experience blended into governance is what I want to be able to highlight about the value that you bring. And really that's one of the key, if you look at really what a SPAC is, it's an M&A public play, right? Consisting with structure and governance and our unique ability to understand the operators and the journey behind the target company that we're going to merge with. So Seth, welcome. Glad you could
Thank you.
Join in and get the technology working. We're just going around the board and giving our backgrounds. So I'll give you a minute to get settled. Anna, you want to share with us some of your unique background and perspective and what brings you to the board with Emmis?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks for having me. And hi, Seth. Glad you joined us as well. We need you. So yeah, my name's Anna Malin, and my background is I've started multiple companies over the last 25 years across different parts of the world. Worked as an investor and lived across Europe, Southeast Asia, and Singapore for 15 years, and also in the US. So spent a lot of time building ecosystems. My background is very much venture capital. I've helped launch more than 70 tech startups and facilitated over $500 million in funding, but mostly earlier in the venture capital space. And I've also had the pleasure of working with global tech leaders like AWS and Google and Meta, and partnering with accelerators. I've spent a lot of time working with accelerators and VCs, including Sequoia and also on Techstars, Antler. So really at a very, very early stage, focusing a lot on the people in the company. That's something I'm very focused and passionate about. And I've had the pleasure of working with a lot of unicorns as well, companies like Canva or Hugging Face, and helping them with a variety of different things like fundraising, business modeling, partnerships, but also internationalization, because I've lived across different continents so long. I've also had the pleasure of dipping my toes into corporate innovation programs in Southeast Asia, and also worked for a global media education business actually for 7 years that later sold for 480 million Australian dollars. That was in my early 20s, super fascinating journey there. And was part of Southeast Asia's first startup accelerator. So really saw a variety of different verticals, the passion of entrepreneurs, and really the journey from the beginning all the way to the end. So it's a huge honor for me to join Emmis here and see it obviously go to the public space. And everything I've always done, and all my focus has always been on enabling innovation and enabling innovators, but also turning capital into opportunity. And that's really what I see this opportunity here. So thanks for having me, Peter. Back to you.
It's great. And, it's perfect. And I want to add part of our diversity is including geographic, and you span both the European continent and Asia. So it brings very unique geographic perspective, along with all of the contact you built in venture, in tech and in the finance and in the investor community. So it brings a unique aspect to what we're doing from many different perspectives. And of course, the heart of this is being able to work with those growth companies to provide them, the fuel in the way of both human capital, which is a big area of your focus, and of the traditional form of capital that we work with. So honor to have you as well. Anna, thank you. So Mr. Ken Low, please share with us, your background. I know you're calling in from Malaysia. It's late at night there. So thanks for joining in as we span 3 different continents and time zones.
Yeah. My name is Ken Lau. Okay. I'm based out of Malaysia. It's not that late. It's only about 10 p.m. here. So I'm still awake. I think for my background is very much an accountant, so a little bit more technical, and I'm a little bit more back-ended person. And mostly what I do is also M&A, getting the companies prepared for going public and whatever not. And then I work a lot with, the auditors and the attorneys to get the companies ready for IPOs. So myself, I've been on the board of Australia listed companies in Australia, in Malaysia, and also in Singapore, and also the US. And this is the first time that I am in a SPAC environment whereby we are looking at bringing in the target companies that can add value to the you know to the whole ecosystem that we are building now. So yeah, I think that is as much as my introduction. Thank you.
Yeah, Ken, you're humble, and I know you well, and I know all of the expertise you bring. You also lead our audit committee, and that perspective of finance, financial reporting, and the discipline is a big part of our governance, big part of any public company governance, of course. And your knowledge of working through the process of private companies going public is very critical here, not for us only as a public company, as a SPAC, but when we work with the target companies. A big part of our value proposition is getting the companies ready for their successful entry. We're already public. We've gone through that process. We did it in record time, right? We did it in less than 80 days. That's due to all the strict preparation, intentionality, and structure that we bring. But your experience within the financial reporting sector and the listing and the readiness brings a huge part, and your ability to lead the audit aspect for any public company, I think, is one of the most important board member roles. So thank you, Ken. We're thrilled to have you on board. Seth, want to close us out now and just bring your bio and your background. Many people here know you, and we know you very well with your experience in small cap, micro cap, and your multiple exits. So please,
sure.
Bring it.
So yeah, my background is just trying to surround myself with good people, which I'm doing here. So it's pretty much my secret sauce. But from I guess 25-year overview, I used to be a securities attorney helping companies go public, raise capital. Hopefully no one will hold that against me. I haven't practiced in 23 years. But then I've just been involved with multiple companies, all surrounding the capital markets, corporate compliance, and services. So an SEC Edgar filing company, sold to PR Newswire, a company called V Corp, a company called B Check, where we did background checks and due diligence. Just really always trying to provide services that make that going public, IPO, being public journey a little bit more compliant. And then just really helping CEOs tell their stories. I mean, currently we work with probably close to 1,000 publicly traded companies, NASDAQ, New York Stock Exchange. And so, I'm thrilled. If I'm being very candid, I've on occasion been asked to join different boards, and Peter, we spoke about this, and I've always said no. And this is the first time I've accepted that opportunity, because I think that the SPAC world is extremely exciting right now. I, through de-SPAC, have been involved with dozens of SPACs, either through going public or the de-SPAC, and I think there's a real opportunity here. I liked what Anna said in terms of turning capital into opportunity. I think I'm going to make that into a T-shirt. Yeah, so just anything that we could do to add value to those companies that are going public. And like you said, Peter, with Emmis, we're looking for opportunity, and whether that's domestic or international, I'm excited to see what we look at and where we end up.
Yeah, great, Seth. And I also believe that the number of companies and people that you touch in the small cap and micro cap, as you said, is in the thousands. And that depth and that reach is exactly part of the value that we bring in, not just to Emmis, but to our target, in being able to make sure that we're surrounding them with the proper relationships. One of the separating factors beyond us on the board is the value that we bring in the ecosystem and the relationships that we have. through cap markets, through the investor community, and of course for the aftermarket, right? So many companies get focused on just the de-SPAC. For us, that's just the beginning of this company because we're all shareholders going forward into the future. So, rolling that into just, kind of a quick follow-up, just for each one of you, and you can just pass the ball here, about why you said yes. This is the first SPAC actually for all of us, even though many of us have done SPAC-like work for the last number of decades. This was the first, and there's a lot of reason as to why now, and we'll get into that, probably in the future. But just a quick one, few words from each one of you about like why I approached you. As some of us have never been on a board like this, why join? What was the belief that you see in what we're building that had you say yes?
Maybe I'll start, Peter. From my perspective, one of the things that was most attractive to me, not only about the vehicle, but the timing of the opportunity set here, really is focused on product market fit. SPACs have been somewhat maligned historically in the last several years. There was a kind of a frothy environment in 2021 and 2022. A lot of transactions focused on hot sectors and primarily technology and non-revenue generating companies, theme-oriented companies, with very good thesis, but not a lot of execution experience. And so what really was exciting to me was to bring the thought process of looking for companies that had strong fundamentals in terms of revenue and EBITDA growth and growth prospects, and marrying that opportunity set to the SPAC vehicle, and to do that in a public environment. And the timing is, I think, exceptional at this point. Investors are much more in tune with what makes a successful SPAC and what that needs to look like. And I think that the product, if you will, that we're focused on, is a great fit for the market environment. And I think we'll have a very successful not only SPAC transaction, but post-SPAC transaction, which is the most important, that it performs well in the aftermarket, and that people make money and across the entire spectrum of the investment.
And I'll just jump in to sort of echo what you're saying, David. But from my perspective, as I mentioned, I had been asked over the last 20 years, different companies, and always said thank you, but no thank you. It's probably a combination of factors that I said yes. Certainly Peter and our relationship goes back 20 years, so that you have to have that element of trust. But I think that I really appreciated the element of transparency that Peter and the team are trying to bring together. I mean, even the fact that we're doing a LinkedIn Live. This is my first LinkedIn Live. I mean, in other words, it just being very transparent and open, I think, is a very refreshing perspective, and bringing people along with us on this journey as we go through it, I think is very refreshing. And then the final thing that I thought was pretty intriguing is that the international element, of course, the end result may be domestic, it may be international, but we have certainly seen, from my standpoint at V-Stock, over the last 12 months, 18 months, the interest level from Malaysia, Singapore, Hong Kong, Japan, India, it's extremely, extremely interesting, and there's a lot of opportunity. So, where we end up at the end, we're not sure. We're open to everything, but just that combination of everything, was like, okay, I'd love to be a part of this team.
Great.
Yeah, maybe I just jump in a couple of words. Of course, knowing Peter for quite a number of years already, okay, the trust is there, and already observing him to have performed multiple transactions, and then I have the confidence on him, and that is why when he invited me to be one of the board members, without a second thought, I just said, okay, let's do it. Okay, and then of course, a couple of things is, number one, in Asia, there's a lot of mistrust or misconception about a SPAC, whereby there's a lot of failed projects in SPAC. But I don't think that is a true representation of a spec, and that is why I think when Peter shared with me the ideology, why we wanted to try out this uh, MS Acquisition Corp, I said let's do it, because I think we have to make the perspective right as to what exactly a spec should be, and how should we do the spec, and then what are the target companies involved, because there are too many of future profit valuation that uh, the value just doesn't hold, the share price just doesn't hold. So I think we have to uh, you know change the conception and get the spec back into the right positioning.
I'll go next, and yeah, another echo here. To be very frank, it's the deep respect and the trust in Peter Goldstein, first of all, that just got me to straight away listen to what he has to say. We've known each other, a number of years as well, and I think we deeply align on values and beliefs, both in business and personally. So I've really admired your leadership and your work, first of all. The reason I was, of course, very honored, but also said yes to this opportunity is because everything I do is I really am very driven about creating opportunities for companies and for investors. And this is an opportunity for me to learn and to contribute at a completely bigger scale, and in a very transparent way as well. So it's very meaningful for me from that perspective, because I'm driven about societal impact as well, like job creation, everything that the company will do. And this is just at a very, very different level, because I've started, working with pre-seed companies, then seed, Series A, Series B, moving myself up that journey. And so yeah, for me, it's that scale. But really, the reason I'm here is, because I deeply admire and share the values with Peter, and then he's put together this incredible board. How can I not say yes to this? It's an honor and a huge learning. So yeah, big thanks from our perspective as well.
Well, I'm humbled, guys. But more importantly, I want to echo what I heard. So, Dave, you and I are always working within the belief that product market fit is critical for every business. And I just truly believe this is the right product for this market, given the instability of the IPO market, and an alternative to a pathway to a public listing for a significant growth target company. The trust, the transparency that you mentioned, that's the ethos here, right? MS actually translates into the truth. So the entire ethos of what we're doing is transparency. The innovation is to share that with the people along with the journey. And that by itself makes us unique. The fact that we're doing this here today and will continue to be transparent, Seth, in what you mentioned. And Ken, the value proposition. What I've seen go wrong with SPACs is what has led us to where we are today, which is to have a fundamentally sound transaction, to build in an arbitrage, to build in a value proposition, so that, in Anna's words, that everybody across the entire component of this gets value. The stakeholders, the entire team, right? Post-merger, all of the shareholders, and then setting that company up for sustainable growth. And that's just a summary that I've heard just in this about the values and the beliefs of why we're all here. So thank you for that. I want to just bring together now, there's 4 pillars that I also heard, and I'm just going to dip into each one of those with you. So the 4 pillars to me are structure, governance, readiness, and alignment, right? Each one of those is a key component to our ethos. And so, Dave, you've led me in from inception in working through the structure, because we're very intentional about each aspect of what we're building with the target in mind, not for our own self-interest, but for the self-interest of the consolidated post-D-SPAC. Because when the day is done, de-SPAC is everything. We can do everything. We executed beautifully on the IPO, largely because of our structure. But Dave, talk a little bit about what structure has looked like behind the scenes, and how it shaped our IPO outcome.
Glad to, Peter. A SPAC is first and foremost a complex vehicle. Being in the public markets is complex, and SPAC magnifies that by probably an order of magnitude of sorts. And so just to play on the themes that I think we've spoken to a number of times here, from a structural perspective, we focused on simplicity, transparency, and alignment. Very consistent with the way that we've built the business across the board. First and foremost, execution structure. And so our entity structure is we are domiciled in the Cayman Islands. That's to be reflective of the fact that investors are now international as well as potential targets. And it's obviously a tax effective mechanism. And the Cayman Islands, from an offshore perspective, is the gold standard, and that's where we chose to be domiciled. But at the same time, you have to operate the business day to day, and so we have an additional U.S. subsidiary that helps facilitate admin. And so the first part of structure, execution structure. Second part is the security structure, and so in our case, or in all SPAC cases, they're primarily what's called a unit deal, so comprised of common stock and a kicker. That kicker typically takes the form of a warrant or a right, which is essentially an option on future value and stock. And in our case, we chose to execute via a right versus a warrant, which frankly is a little more expensive to the company, but it's a much simpler instrument and it's easier to understand and therefore more transparent. And so in weighing those options, we sided on again simplicity and transparency by choosing a right versus a warrant. Important part of our structure, and also will help with frankly the target company understanding what it is that they're getting into. Again, simplicity and transparency and alignment. And the third element, which I think is also important, is frankly the size of our SPAC. Our SPAC was targeting $100 million. We were oversubscribed, as Peter mentioned. We're a $115 million SPAC, and from our perspective, that provides the minimum efficient scale. The minimum efficient scale to align the management team's incentives with the sponsor investor incentives, and frankly and importantly, dilution to the SPAC. So we're somewhat Goldilocks in that regard, and that it's just the right size. And we think that was an important element as well. And so those three key parts, the execution structure, the security structure, and size as a component of structure, are three things that we believe bring simplicity, transparency, and alignment to the MS SPAC and all of our stakeholders.
Well done, Dave. Thank you. So that's a good segue into the next pillar, which is governance, right? We've started from day one with governance, and Seth, I know that you love taglines. Part of my tagline that has come to me now is transparency is a new currency, and that's done with governance.
I like
right?
it.
It's the next T-shirt. So help us talk a little bit about what, from your perspective, governance looks like at Emmis, and how we've applied that thus far with your participation, with the understanding that this is all happening in action in real time, and strong governance being the backbone of that transparency to the investor community, and to the capital markets, and ultimately to the target.
Yeah, I mean, I think as David had said, that SPAC is complex, and just to expand on that, the governance is complex, and the legal is complex, and the audit is complex. I mean, not to dispel the myth that there's more to being public than just ringing the bell, breaking open the champagne and having the confetti. There's actual work that goes.
There is? What?
Everybody's bubble out there.
Oh boy.
And it's really what I find. It is about assembling the right team. Having the attorneys that can, get that S1 done, follow up on comments in a quick way, and having done thousands of registration statements over the last 25 years, I think most people would agree that the delays come from the unresponsiveness, not of the SEC, but of the issuer. And as evidenced by the fact that this was done in record time, I think you said under 80 days, it shows the effort and the diligence that everybody here and the team is putting into it. The audit obviously is not too much of a heavy lift at this point, but the governance in terms of the shareholder communication, I think that's critical. I'm biased, obviously, as a transfer agent and working with that shareholder issuer element, but I know that's something that was important to you and will be important as we go forward. And so, compliance and governance and communication are, I think, additional pillars that we need to be focused on, which we have been, and ultimately that'll get, once that diamond is chosen, that diamond in the rough for the acquisition, all these factors will just help things along the way.
Yeah, completely agreed. And I think in light of that, most boards aren't even brought public from a SPAC, or even most public companies. So one of the things that I think is unique about us in Action is that every step along the way, each member of this board is adding value. This isn't a board to just check compliance boxes to satisfy the regulatory component. Each one of us brings unique and separate value, and we've structured ourselves so that we will have steady, regular, consistent communication, even until such point as not only we've completed the transaction, but we've gone through the transition period. So that's something that I think leads into what you touched on, Seth, was the reporting and the readiness. And Ken is an expert in both the preparation, the reporting discipline, and what has to happen with the credibility from a governance perspective in the public markets. So Ken, maybe share with us a little bit about how you see that kind of financial reporting and governance, and what that does in the way of building trust and credibility for companies inside of being a public and transitioning to the de-SPAC.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, as I mentioned earlier, I'm very much more a back-end person, more technical, dealing with the auditors, the accountants, and also the attorneys in terms of getting all the reporting up and running and filing done on time. Timeliness is one of the very, very critical issue here. And most of the time, my experience is the issuer is having issues or having they need to be on top of the game, okay, to make sure that all the financial reportings and whatever other reportings is on the table on time, okay. And then many times, dealing with companies, somehow or rather, all this reporting is actually pushed to the back end. It's always rush job and rush jobs and rush jobs. Tomorrow is a deadline. Today only they will start rushing for it. So I mean, I'm not sure if this is a human nature, but it is quite universal to anywhere in the world. Okay. So now that we are actually having a SPAC here, and then we are looking for the target, so I think this is a good chance for us to make sure that we educate the issuers, to make sure they understand the importance of financial reporting on time, and be very transparent with all the transactions, so that we get everything up, nicely done, filed, reported, and this would actually give a lot of investors confidence in terms of this company itself. Yeah, I think that is the very most important thing, is investors' confidence in the company. Yeah.
Completely agree, Ken. And one of the things I want to highlight in what you said is not only are we doing that reporting for ourselves, whoever we work with as our de-SPAC target, a big portion of the value that we bring is that readiness for them. Most of these companies, it's the management, it's their first time being public, and getting the reporting kind of cycles and preparation so that they can continue with that. those quarterly reports, as we all know, come around very, very quickly. We just filed actually uniquely a look back quarter, and then this quarter we'll be filing current. But the team has to really understand, and that's where a big portion of our value comes, because we're capital market experts. We know what's going to happen, and educating and preparing that target is one of, I would say, the invisible value sets that is brought to the table by a SPAC team. And so our capital market, financial reporting readiness, and governance plays strongly into that.
Peter, so I know that there's talk about changing the rules and regulations so that there's only going to be an annual filing instead of quarterly. You would probably vote against that, and you'd probably prefer to have the quarterly filings.
Even if the laws do get changed, 100%.
You're doing it voluntarily.
We are, because I believe
a VQ, a voluntarily quarterly filing.
I like it. I like it, because what Ken said is so spot on. You know, investors want to have transparency and vision into what's happening as quickly as possible to make decisions, and to be able to have clear transparency. You know, those companies, even we had the option of being a foreign filer, which has less reporting requirements. We chose to be domestic because I want to file every quarter. So you're spot on. You know, that won't change. If I could do it monthly, I would, because, you know, I also believe that in measuring, you know, it's a big adage of mine: if you can't measure, you can't manage. And a lot of these companies that are public wait until their quarter. I as a CEO, I want to know, where am I based upon our forecast and our actual performance. So that's a whole nother story. But yes, we're going to stick with, you know, the key fundamentals of transparency. So Anna, bring us home. So, you know, a big portion of your work has been done around the human capital, the human resources. And so, you know, we have people here in different parts of the world with different backgrounds and different perspectives. And one of those 4 pillars that I really believe is critical in any industry, in any business, in any situation, is alignment. So just share with us, out of your experience, you know, from a governance perspective and from a board and from a management integration, how do we all stay aligned across these diverse perspectives and these diverse components that we work with in real time?
Yeah, thanks. It really does bring everything together, and pretty much tags on to what everyone here just shared. And it's not just the board, it's everyone involved, actually, right? In the SPAC, with so many different stakeholders. But really, it's, I think, first and foremost, what David was talking about is the structure, right? Because the structure creates trust. You know, the clarity creates speed, and the cadence actually beats the micromanagement, because we have that at the core. So, you know, the intent that we all come together with is pretty much traveling much faster than any email. We know what we're doing. It's very clear what everyone's role is. And so the trust is really one very, very important component. So it was interesting also to hear why different board members joined. And you can see there is a clear trend there. And I think all the stakeholders that will come together. So, you know, the roles and integrity around clear ownership and transparent reporting, you know, discipline, follow through. We hear it, you know, Peter being a fan of filing, you know, to this extent. All this creates, again, trust and structure, and that creates alignment. And that clarity is preventing us from doing all these different activities or having, you know, misunderstandings, and really going into the same direction, which ultimately is the vision that we're all planning for investors as well as the acquisition target, right? So the human alignment that you mentioned, Peter, you know, I love this, to think of it that people do their best work when they're trusted and when they're seen. And that's pretty much what we're doing here with the LinkedIn Live, right? Which is why I love it. And that's how you engage people, and that's how you bring them together, right? So that respect really turns, I can really see it here in the board so quickly, into clarity and into momentum across different continents, across different expertise. And it's funny, right? We come from different worlds. literally, physically, but we super quickly came together working for the same thing very quickly without any challenge or resistance. And that diversity that we have is really the strength. And when you have that, that foundation, then you see that that diversity is really accelerating. And so that's how I see the alignment. And again, kudos to your leadership there, because you put all of those pillars in place, and brought people together that have that natural alignment from that structure.
Yeah, thanks. And it's really well said. And I think that diversity and alignment is another form of the value proposition. So thank you for that. Look, we've done the hard work behind the scenes. Our connection here, I want to bring that through what I would call cultural alignment as well. And all right, like what we're building and what we'll continue to build through the D-SPAC is a cultural alignment. And that's where people really get to understand that they're a part of something with a bigger purpose, right? And I'm a huge believer that, purpose and the why is everything.
Yeah.
But just for a little fun here, just in a speed round, just give us one or two words and your thoughts about the Emmis journey so far. So, in any one of you, just jump in a word or two about the Emmis journey.
Oh, David, you're on mute.
Your words of wisdom are being lost in the mute.
Due to yet another technical failure on my part.
Yes.
I was just going to say, for me, there's, been a number of important words that we've all shared here today. I'm going to focus on the one that, is really most aligned with sort of the more technical aspects of what needs to be done, certainly in my role. And that is the word intentional in everything that we do from an execution perspective. And importantly, or critically, intentionality around the critical inch of what's material in what it is that we need to do. And, that mindset of critical inch and materiality, is important, I think, as we execute going forward. And, much of my role is focused on the details and the execution of that details. And so, my words, if you will, of I'm not sure wisdom, but certainly a focus is intentionality around the critical inch of materiality. That's it. My words of wisdom, Peter.
I'll follow you. Listen, I think
short and sweet.
I think at the end of the day, Ken and David, while I am so thankful that you guys are more technical oriented, I am certainly not. But I think the one thing that Peter and I have in common is the experience that you've got to be storytelling, not making it up, but just telling your story. That's
Yeah.
So, I think that the experience that I've had with Emmis so far is the focus on that, being able to storytell, and that's going to benefit the acquisition target, because too often these guys will, hopefully they'll merge, and some people will think like, okay, the heavy lift is done, and now I ride off into the sunset, and nothing is farther from the truth. They would certainly hear crickets if that were the case. And so, I think that this team assembled together today is going to really add value to that target in being able to, like we were as prepared as we were, we're going to be able to prepare them and tell that story and show them that there has to be this constant effort to tell people what you're up to and what you're doing and what your plans are, and then to be able to execute on those. So I think the storytelling element has been, so far very in line with what I look for.
For me, what has been interesting, obviously coming from rapid iteration, running a lot of innovation sprints with very early stage companies, is that balance of the agility to public market discipline. So that's really what I found quite fascinating, and also that storytelling stuff that you mentioned at that larger level and at that public level. Those are at least the takeaways so far from the journey. But I think there'll be way more, and yeah.
I think for me, the last part would be education, basically education, and maybe some relearning especially for the target companies, because they could have been running their own businesses for the last 20, 30, 40 years as a private company. But once you become a public company, the environment change, the requirement change. Okay. And therefore, there's a lot of education and relearning that we can impart to them, so that uh, it's like they would be uh, experiencing new stuff like governance, reporting, quarterly board meetings and whatever not, right? It's very much more public. It's not like just another private entity. Everything is kept within the family or the walls or whatever, right? So I think that the single word I would be looking at is actually education.
Well done, guys. So, to me, there are a series of words that I'll put together that have been formed as we're in the ethos of this journey. It's clarity and structure, precision and execution, truth, discipline, and alignment. And that's what we're bringing. So, in closing, I think you can all see the board shows what's possible here when structure meets purpose. And so for the investors, the founders, all the partners, this is leadership in public. This is what we're committed to do. I want to thank you all. We ran way long. I think we could keep talking for hours here, but in light of time and in wanting to bring this to close, I thank you all on the board. I thank all of those that are listening, current, and future shareholders, investors, and stakeholders for being a part of the journey. Thank you all kindly.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you, team.
Thank you. Thanks, Peter. Thank you.